Internationally today, Tibetans and Tibet supporters are standing up for the Tibetan cause today at every Chinese embassies all over the world. And what we are doing here today in Sydney, in front of the Chinese embassy, is a globally coordinated Tibetan protest against the Chinese ongoing occupation and the tyrannical rule with which they are running the occupation of Tibet. It is because of the Chinese government's failed policies and continued brutality with which they are running the occupation of Tibet. Because of that, they are pushing the Tibetans, they're driving the Tibetans in Tibet to desperate facts where they have to take their own lives. I've seen Chinese embassies in London and New York, India, and various other countries, and today, for the first time, I'm standing in front of the Chinese embassy here in Sydney. And one common thing that I see in all the Chinese embassies is all of them look ridiculously monstrous. And the fact that there are many layers of barbed wires is a clear sign that they are insecure. We are not. We can stand in front of them with dignity and say our protests, say our prayers. The prayers that we were saying just before this, before we started the protest, in the prayer we were saying that compassion is the most treasured of all hearts. And Tibetans, we believe, because compassion is the most treasured of all hearts, wherever it has not seen, let it grow. Let the seed of compassion grow in those hearts who had never seen compassion. And we pray that wherever compassion had grown, let it not decay, let it grow. And let compassion grow in all hearts, all over the world. That is our belief, that is our prayer, that is the basic identity of the Tibetan people. In New Delhi, where I have protested many times, India, where I live, where I come from, in New Delhi, there are two zoos. One is the New Delhi Animal Zoo. The other zoo is the Chinese Embassy. Because in Chinese Embassy in New Delhi, there are 3 layers of barbed wires. People do not look at the Chinese Embassy as an embassy. They look at this as think that, are they so insecure inside that they have to have 3 layers of barbed wires? And they think like this is never an embassy. The embassy usually have this dignified sense of authority, very inviting. People would love to go to the embassy and seek visas. But embassies, Chinese embassies all over the world look monstrously ridiculous. And that's mainly because the Chinese government have a lot of truths to hide. Not only the occupied countries and people like Tibetans, people of East Turkestan, people of Mongolia and Manchuria, not only have these people have been suppressed and brutally ruled over, Chinese people themselves are not happy under the Chinese government. The Chinese government is not only running this brutal regime over the Tibetan people, they are doing the same thing, perhaps more brutally, over the Chinese people. The Chinese government has lost confidence on their own people. again, people of China did not hear it. Oh. People of China did not hear the Prime Minister. Why? Because the Chinese government censored it. They just didn't want to hear the word reform. It is not that the people didn't want to hear. It is the government who didn't want the Prime Minister to be heard to the people. This is the ridiculous way, the way Chinese government is running their control in China. And therefore I'm saying that this whole thing, what is called the China, People's Republic of China, which was founded in 1949, it's not going to last. Another thing, just recently when His Holiness Dalai Lama said, well, I'm going to be reborn, and if people of Tibet want the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, 15th one, then people will decide. And because His Holiness said, because the Dalai Lama is now in exile in a free country, and if he has to be reborn, his reincarnation should continue the work that was done by the 14th one. Of course, it's just logical. And he said, I will decide where I will be born. But the Chinese government came out with their own interpretation. He said, oh, that is illegal. You know why it is hilarious? You know why it's hilarious? Because the Chinese government's law, basically what is called the People's Republic of China, the government, the country, it was founded in 1949. So up to now, if you actually count, it comes to like 2 years. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama's whole institution is 400 years old. So therefore, the Chinese government, which was founded in 1949, thinks that the 400-year-old institution of Dalai Lama is illegal. Oh. It's just hilarious that the 60-year-old government of China thinks that the 400-year-old institution of Dalai Lama is illegal. They do not know that the Dalai Lama had seen many rulers of China. In fact, 400 years back, it was not the Chinese who were running China. It was the Manchus who were ruling the China. Manchus who were overthrown in 1911. When they were throwing out the Manchus out of China in 1911, they looked at the Manchus as foreigners. Today, those foreigners are under China. So this ridiculous 1949 founded People's Republic of China thinks that the Dalai Lama's institution is illegal. And so therefore, again, another round of laughter. So this is just funny. So in front of the Chinese government today, we have a lot of laughter. We are not protesting with anger. We don't protest with anger. We protest with laughter today. We just protest with laughter today. So we have today a very unique way of protesting. We protest with laughter because we just find this whole institution, People's Republic of China, a government run only with military power, just ridiculous. And therefore we protest. And we tell them very clearly that our nonviolence will outlive your military power. This is our basic belief, that our nonviolence will outlive their military power. Or one day they will have to accept their reality. And then we aspire that the Chinese government remains powerful economically, militarily, but our neighbor. Our neighbor, and we respect each other as neighboring countries, just as we have lived for the past 4,000 years. That is what our message is very clearly. Thank you.